Hi, I'm Dale Howey, the Crazy Green Landlord. As both a landlord and a concerned global citizen, I am committed to reducing my carbon footprint and my impact on the planet wherever I can. Welcome to another program in our series of podcasts. I'm joined in the studio again by Andy Goke from Apadana Solar. In this episode, we will be discussing charging stations and the impact and the growing demand on solar and electric cars in the region. Welcome, Andy.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Dale.
Andy, charge stations are a very important part of my toolbox to decarbonize my buildings and my business. So that's my goal, is to look at my business from a system standpoint and see where I can make a difference on impacting the planet, the planetary health. You've helped me install a number of charge stations at my properties. Can you talk a little bit about the process?
Yeah, and first I'd say a great thing, what you're doing is a lot of the locations you're adding charging stations to where you have solar. So that makes it even a cleaner experience, if that's the right word, for your tenants on charging the cars from potentially directly from solar to their vehicle. So Hats off for making that connection, and that's the ideal world to have that in place.
Right. So my motivation for this, just to kind of do a big picture thing, is anybody who knows me knows I've been the Crazy Green Landlord since about 2000 and really been working at decarbonization of all of my properties, my home, whatever, since then. And so I was approached for the EV chargers by your company when we were doing a carport setup at 1600 Park. Where are those made, and how are you seeing the market for charge stations?
Yeah, and that's where they're made is all across the board. There are, I don't know about hundreds, but there are a ton of different EV charger options. And it depends on what a landlord is looking for to get out of that charger. So there are chargers where they're connected to the internet and they get billed, the tenants get billed directly, and then they pay that directly.
Like a public charging station.
Right, like a public charging station, but it's connected to your electrical system in the property. And so it uses your electricity, and then there's a setup payment that some of that payment goes towards you as the landlord, whatever rate you set, and then to help pay for that electrical bill. So some people possibly could be a revenue source. The reality is at this moment, it's more of a feature. Unless you're going to charge very high rates, there's probably going to be a fair amount of cost on that upfront setup if you go for that charging route where you have that Wi-Fi connection and the billing involved. Some of those involve annual fees as well for the charging. Some of them are a more simple charger where you just charge and you don't have that Wi-Fi connection, don't have that billing, and you just charge as you go. It's evolving, and I believe a lot of the landlords right now are evaluating what type of system they wanted there. So I believe at your properties, your current plan is that if your tenants move in and they have an electric vehicle, they park and they charge, and you just charge a higher rate for that parking spot. So you don't charge per kilowatt hour. That makes it a little simpler on the cost of the EV charger. So you can just have a simple EV charger. They plug in. You can put the time of day of when they're allowed to charge. They charge when they want to, and then they don't have to worry about swiping anything. Bills on that, they just pay their monthly.
The controls are all over the board too, as far as consumer, because you can get them with an RFID card, which somebody has to have in order to use it at all. You can control the time of day, so you're getting a lower rate from Excel. Because if you start charging at 9 o'clock, I think till 6 a.m., the rates decreased significantly by more than half. Am I right?
Yep, and Excel is actually petitioning to roll out time of day charging on all properties in Minnesota. So that means time of day rates. So actually for homeowners as well, they may be charging 27 cents a kilowatt hour or whatever that number is during peak hours I'm just throwing out times from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. So you pay a higher rate if you use electricity then, but at midnight to 6 a.m. you pay 3 cents. And then the early mornings it's 17 cents or something around those rates. So they're trying to encourage people to use electricity during certain times of days so they don't have to build a peaker plant. So at certain times, if they have to produce too much power than they normally produce, they have to have another power plant just to cover that extra high peakage. So for EV charging, you'd want to look as a landlord at your electric bills as well. Are you getting charged demand charges? And demand charges are kind of tricky on how they bill those. They take, I don't know if we want to dive into this or not.
I mean, for anybody to understand their Excel bill, I mean, you need some sort of a degree, because I'm still trying to figure out all the different fees or whatever. So how I keep it simple for me, just to keep my sanity, is I just have a charger in a controlled space, and they pay the monthly rent for the fee, and I don't bother with all the other details on the charging, because I have enough to think about. A spot like that, I would charge $75 as an added incentive. They get a spot for free, and then they get free power and free parking as my contribution to trying to get people into EVs. So I'm just really driven to try to get people into these cars and out of gas cars.
As a landlord myself, I think that's the way to go. And that's simplest and simplest for you, simplest for the tenant, and then you can evaluate your bills over time. Are people charging at the not ideal times, and your electric bills are going up? Then you can reevaluate to say, okay, maybe I need to upgrade my charger for that billing, or maybe just allow them to charge, as you mentioned, at different times that are less expensive.
Right. Instead of having it available, well, they're usually there at night anyway.
Yeah.
So if you just have it not even start charging, they can plug it in, leave it overnight, boom, it charges, and it shuts off in the morning at the time where obviously it doesn't take 8 hours for a car to charge. So that's a good point. How long it takes people to charge on these chargers. So level 2 chargers are about 35 miles an hour charge rate.
It depends on the vehicle that they have and the charger itself. So there's different rated chargers. So level 1 is you plug into an outlet and you charge your car that way.
That's 2 to 4 miles an hour.
So that's the very slow charger. And some people that don't drive a lot, that might be efficient for them, that they don't drive a lot and they can have that slow charge. Generally, people like the level 2 charger. And again, it depends on the
that would be
charger rating and the vehicle.
A 240 volt charger, right?
Somebody just told me this, and hopefully I'll say it right. But if you have a battery in your car that's a 70 kilowatt battery, and you have a 7 kilowatt EV charger, then it would take 10 hours to charge it from 0 to 100%. So maybe that's a 5-hour charge from 50 to 100, which is easily done overnight and then completely done before then. But as little guidelines or as a benchmark, that you can do that equation if you know those two numbers.
Right. Okay. The other thing about EV charge stations is there's actually one that's local made. There's a made in Minnesota charge station, Evo.
Correct. Yep. And I'm not too familiar with that brand, and we're actually looking into it for a couple of your properties. So again, there's
I'm a big fan of local. Buy local food, buy local whatever you can get.
Absolutely. There's the manufacturer of the EV chargers, and then if they have plans where they service those, they also service that as well. So Evo probably has those options where you could buy a simple charger that doesn't connect and charge people, or a more expensive model and an ongoing fee where you can charge the tenant, and then they maintain that, they do the billing, and they send that. So they most likely, like most chargers, have multiple options. So
what I've been doing too is on my properties is putting in one charge station for 4 parking spots and getting the longer cables. And that way you can cover a lot more area, and they can share the charging. And then you split if 2 people are plugged into one charger, it just splits the charge. But then everybody, I've got 10 electric cars at one location with just 2 chargers, and everybody manages. They're not complaining about it. There's not an issue. They communicate with each other, and they just schedule it and charge their cars. I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think whatever.
Wish everybody could get along like that.
Works at each site is what's best for that location.
What's the best app that people can use to find a local charging station?
From my experience, PlugShare.
PlugShare.
It'll show where you're driving. You can map your routes, and it'll show the level of chargers that are available within that community or for larger trips throughout the United States.
Right, and it shows you the type of plug too, right?
Correct. Yep. You can it'll show which areas have a charging station. You can tap on that that button, and it'll show you which hookups are available. It'll also have people's comments there. If sometimes there's issues with the chargers, they might say, okay, this one's not working, and you can identify all that at once.
Right. So we travel with the Tesla Y, and we've had a lot of success on random plugs at camping sites. So if you go to a camping site, you can reserve a plug-in site.
That's a great idea.
And so another thing in regards to camping and travel goes is in Minnesota, they passed the last legislative session, they passed a law where they're electrifying our parks. So if you enjoy Minnesota state parks, they have EV charge stations for free, along with what I was talking about before is the plug-in camping. You can just go charge your car if you're just doing a day trip and go for a hike and come back and pick up your car.
Yeah, that seems like a great option. And there's even more funding coming out for providing additional level 3, which is the fastest chargers near the major interstates in Minnesota. So they're trying to make it more available for charging for people to avoid that, what they say, anxiety range.
Right.
So there's options at state parks, there's options near the highways, your home charging, and other places throughout. And again, that app, PlugShare app, is a great way to see what's out there.
And it also have a little wrench on there if it's not working. I've got a sore spot there because I had one of the first level 3 charge stations in the Twin Cities. McAllister beat me by 2 days. But when Nissan moved to the area, they gave out like 22 charge stations. Goodwill had them, the university had them, McAllister had one. We had 2, my church in St. Paul, Unity Unitarian, and my downtown location, 11th and Washington. And then Shell Oil came in, bought the company, and killed all the charging stations. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but things that might make you want to say, And they told me, oh, we'll fix it. Well, it's been 5 years, and it's not fixed. So I've been looking for a way to replace that or something to do with that. So we'll chat later and see what we could do.
Sounds great.
All right, Andy, thank you for taking the time to chat with me all about chargers. I always learn something new when I'm sitting here with you. Andy plays a mean chess game too. So please join me next time for another Crazy Green podcast. Go Crazy Green.